Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. This is going to be a tough play. It's over.
Woo! Welcome to Triple Shot Sports, the best sports podcast on the planet. I am your host, Brandon Combs. Typically, this is where I introduce you guys and let you guys know who the co-host is. However, tonight, there is no co-host. Soup Boss is still out for a couple more days doing his thing that he's got to take care of. And then I had somebody lined up, and we lost him right before the show starts. So, as the saying goes, the show must go on. So, the show is going to go on. We are going to be talking with Green Bay Greg here from Twist in just a few moments. He is going to go through his top 10 power rankings. We also have Benz's top 10 power rankings from the All Access Sports Network. I have my list of top 10 as well, and we will talk about the Sunday night and Monday night games. And then after that, it's just me and you guys. We're going to talk some baseball, talk some hockey. So you guys know how the show starts. As always, Shop Talk presented by BigDogPoker.net. That's BigDogPoker.net. Use agent code GoCubsGo when you deposit your first $50. That's BigDogPoker.net. Agent code is GoCubsGo. All right, guys, so how's it going? Alan's already starting it off. Alan says, go Cardinals. Alan, I'm telling you, you are going to Adrian Peterson's house one of these days if you keep messing with me with this go Cardinals stuff. And then he says, go Dad. All right. Well, I'm going to try, buddy. So give me all the comments, all the things you want to talk about, anything you want to hear. I will go with it all. But without further ado, I am going to go ahead and welcome to the show Green Bay Greg from Twist. Green Bay Greg, how's it going, buddy?
Not bad. How you doing?
Oh, hey, man, I am living my best life. That is all I can do. I was having you guys on the show today. I was thinking of Twist. I got the Joe Mauer jersey hanging up here in the back, the autographed Joe Mauer jersey from the All-Star game. But, things are good. A crazy week of football. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, before we get into that, last week you had on my co-hosts on Twist, Matt and Mike, and I was giving you a hard time. You must have went shopping in the clearance rack for – help on the show. You must have gotten a group on this week because you guys usually can't afford me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I had it all planned out that we were either going to have Benz or Mike on, mostly because I don't like talking to Green Bay fans. But this week Benzi's on his honeymoon. I tried talking him into letting the wife know that this is how it's going to be, and she needs to give him an hour, but he said no. So we already know how that one's going. And Reeves is getting another tattoo. Something about having to have more ink to hide a tiny thing. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But
yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it was a 7-hour tattoo that turned into a 20-hour tattoo. And if Benzie posts one more thing on Facebook about where he is in South Carolina or Georgia or something, he'll come down there and drag his ass back.
Especially if he keeps posting all this damn seafood that he's eating, man.
No kidding.
Oh, man, it looks so good.
He had a shrimp the size of a baby's arm the other day.
Yeah, he was eating the shrimp. He had the lobster tail. The lobster tail looked like bigger than the lobsters I can get over here in Chicago. So it's been crazy. But so, yeah, the guys are out. So they said, hey, when in doubt, go get Green Bay Greg. So I asked you to come on and hey, we're going to find out if you're the big guns. I haven't heard your list yet. Hopefully you are not on the Colts bandwagon like your two partners were, and hopefully they are not creeping back into your top 10 after their win against Minnesota this week.
Well, you know why they did that? They knew – see, this is just Green Bay Greg talking here, but I have a feeling they knew how pathetic the Vikings were, so they were ramping up the Colts. So
all right.
Got their asses kicked by them, it doesn't look as bad because the Colts were, this juggernaut like they had been saying for weeks now.
Yeah. And Benzie released his list today, man. And look, I've got issues with it, and we'll go over that here in a moment. But I'm not sure if you've seen them yet.
No, I'm not.
I am in the group with all the different power rankings. I do the MLB power rankings, and he does the NFL. So I get to see them a little bit ahead of everybody. But I've got some issues with his, and we'll talk about his here in a moment. But so first things first is how we run it. Shop Talk, all the guys that are, on with us listening, they're going to go ahead and give us all a whole bunch of crap about, our picks are stupid. They're never listening to the show again, all this other stuff. And, but that's how it goes. We're going to go 10-6 and then 5-1. Give a reason for why you think, if you think you need to give a reason. I think, 1 and 2 are probably the same for everybody. You probably don't need to give a reason, but we'll talk about it for sure. So why don't you go ahead with your 10-6? I'll let you start.
I guarantee mine are not the same, and I'll give the logic behind mine. First of all, I'm going to start off at number 10. I'm going to go with the LA Rams. I think that when it really boils down to it, the Rams have the one thing that a lot of these teams really lack. They have a powerful offense. Goff is coming to his own. He's not by any means a top 5 quarterback, but they have 2 of the best defensive players in the league on their team right now. And with that balanced attack, I think that the LA Rams deserve a spot in the top 10. By the way, all of my top 10 teams are all undefeated teams. One of the things now that we're 2 weeks in, I feel that you need to beat your opponents in order to be in the top 10. There's 11 undefeated teams. Combs, sorry. Number 9. Number 9, I have the Las Vegas Raiders, mainly because I wanted to say Las Vegas Raiders. No, with the way the car lit up the Saints yesterday, I think that what it did was it exposed Drew Brees as the type of quarterback that if you watch the first half of that game, he was dumping it off to Kamara. But when he had to find, 15, 20 yards on one play and Michael Thomas isn't available, I think the Raiders were able to expose that. And the Raiders also brought out one of the best weapons that we all watched last night in the NFL. Darren Waller is unbelievable. I put them at 9. Number 8, I have the Buffalo Bills. I think that Josh Allen is playing like a top 5 quarterback. I think he's playing like a top 5 MVP candidate right now. We're 2 games in, and I think that he got the weapon that he needed. He got Stephon Diggs, and he knows how to deal with Stephon Diggs, apparently. Feed him the ball, feed him early, and then he's not going to bitch the rest of the game. That was the problem that he had in Minnesota. If he wasn't getting involved in the first quarter, he was bitching for the entire game. Obviously, Josh Allen knows how to, or at least for the first 2 weeks, knows how to fix that. Number 7, I have the Tennessee Titans. And the biggest reason why I like the Titans is they had 4 different – the Tennessee Titans. I think that what they're doing so well is they're feeding Derrick Henry the ball, and they're not asking too much of any other player. They're not asking too much of the quarterback, Ryan Tannehill. They're not asking too much of the defense. They're keeping games close, running Henry a lot, and they're coming out and pulling out wins. I think that they're a tough team. They're going to be a tough out, and I think they're going to run after watching the Colts the past 2 weeks, not really light up anything. I think they're going to run away with the South. Number 6, I have the Arizona Cardinals. I'm a believer. I messaged into your show last week and said, I think it's going to be the Packers and Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. I don't think anything from the Cardinal standpoint is leading me to believe any different. I think that Kyler Murray's the real deal, and I think that D-Hop is worth every penny. So my top, my 10 through 6 are the Rams, Raiders, Bills, Titans, Cardinals.
All right, man. Hey, look, I don't have a huge problem with it. You don't have any love for my Bears, and hanging by that big, yellow and green turd that's behind your head there. It does not surprise me that you don't have the Bears. Here's a shocker. I don't have the Bears either in my top 10. Look, I'm not, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about it. I'm not a Trubisky guy. I think that the Bears are still a quarterback away. They're 2-0. They're lucky as hell to be 2-0. They deserve to lose both of those games. They're lucky Saquon got hurt in the one, and they're lucky Swift dropped that ball in the end zone against Detroit. So I don't have them in my top 10 either. I am a little bit, and I don't have the Rams in mine. I know Stephen A has the Rams. When I was watching his show today, Stephen A has the Rams in the top 5. Yeah, so that's insane. The Rams, man, I have a hard time trusting them, so I don't have them in there. Most of my top 10 is also 2-0. I do have one 1-1 team in there, so we'll go over that real quick. So my number 10 is the Tennessee Titans. I know you had them at number 7. I have them down just a little bit. I do think that they are going to win that division, but I think they're going to win that division at 9-7. I think Minnesota, I think I overrated them a little bit, but I think that at some point here they have to wake up. And if they're going to be anything in this division that they want to be, it has to start this week against Tennessee. And I think that Tennessee's the opponent that can make them go there. If anybody can make this rookie secondary look like they're not rookies, it could be Ryan Tannehill, especially if A.J. Brown's not playing. If A.J. Brown's not playing, I really like Minnesota's chances. At number 9, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are really, really good. Flying under the radar. Ben Roethlisberger has played exceptional. James Conner has looked phenomenal. So they look like the real deal. They're probably going to be higher for me next week. I think they're going to go out there and win their game this week too and be 3-0. At number 8, I have the team that lost last night, and that's the New Orleans Saints. I had them at 4 last week. I'm really high on the Saints. I think they had a hiccup at home. I think that they're still they were without Michael Thomas. A lot of people, don't put a whole lot of weight on that, but without Michael Thomas, that's a whole different offense. There are so many weapons that you have to worry about, but Michael Thomas is a whole nother dynamic. And so I have them in there still in the top 10, still at number 8. If they go and lay another egg, they might fall out of my top 10. At number 7, I have the team that beat them, the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, the Las Vegas Raiders are that team. I was on the Mike and Mike Man Hour today talking with them a little bit. Don't tell my boss about that because I was at work while I was doing it. But so I was on Mike and Mike Man Hour, and he asked me the question. He said, are they for real or are they blowing smoke? And they're that team for me. So every week when you're betting on games, there's always those games that everybody's like, stay away from. That's a trap game. You don't know how good that game's going to be. There's too many variables. For me, that's the Oakland Raiders. There are so many variables with the Oakland Raiders. I'm not a big Derek Carr guy, but they do have a ton of weapons. They're young, they're talented, and that defense is good enough to keep them there. So, they might surprise a lot of people and go out there and compete for the AFC West with the Chiefs. A lot of people were expecting that to be other teams, but I think that the Raiders might develop into that team. At number 6, I have the Buffalo Bills. You said it yourself. Their quarterback's playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. They've got weapon after weapon with John Brown, Stephon Diggs. They've got a really good run game. They've got a really, really underrated defense. So I'm really high on the Bills. So my 10 through 6 are the Titans, Steelers, Saints, Raiders, and Bills. So let's get to your boy Benzie.
Well, first of all, on your picks, I don't disagree with your logic behind your picks. My only question is when in this, we're 2 games in, and I don't see how you can still have this. I mean, if you want to put the Saints in the top 10, sure, at 10, but I don't think the game was that close. I think that they were exposed as a team that needs that Michael Thomas. And I think I agree with you that he's a lot more important than fans let on. And once they got down by more than 1 score and they couldn't rely on Kamara, Breeze was exposed. So, and their defense wasn't shutting down Waller. So and every week they're going to play against someone who finds some quarterback who finds that one target that he wants to go to. So that's the only thing I have with your list is I wouldn't have put him in
I'm going to trust Drew Brees until he gives me a reason not to. Much in the same way that I trust Tom Brady until he gives me a reason not to. I think the Saints went in to a game in week 1 and proved that they are still the team to beat in the NFC South. Even though the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to me are the team to beat in the NFC South, and they had no time to gel. They had no preseason, which I think would have been vital for them. With Tom Brady and running that offense, it would have been good to have some game action under their belts. But I think that the Saints went out there and proved it. And even, yes, they did lose last night to the Las Vegas Raiders, but they lost to the Las Vegas Raiders, who I think are an underrated team. They were at their home opener. It was emotional. They had, it was just, there was a lot going on there, and they were without Michael Thomas. So I don't hold as much weight to that loss as you might hold to that loss. So that's why I have them ahead of the Steelers and ahead of the Titans. I think that the Steelers are still, they play in a tough division. They still have to play the Ravens. They still have to, so they still play in a tough division. They might climb up there and they might be ahead of the Saints next week, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Got it.
So your buddy Benzie here, man, I don't get it. You talked about not having 1-1 teams in your top 10, right?
Yep.
Okay. So at number 10, Matt Benz has the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, God.
At number 9, he has the New England Patriots.
Oh.
At number 8, he has the Bills. At number 7, he has the Saints. And at number 6, he has the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I'm okay with the Cardinals at 6. I'm okay kind of with the Saints at 7. I don't know how you don't even have the Raiders on the list, and they beat the Saints last night. And so I'm gonna say like this: he's away, he's on his honeymoon. Maybe he just didn't get to watch a whole lot of football this weekend, so he was just like, "Yeah, let me just throw together a quick list. Let me go off of last week's top 10 and shuffle some stuff around," because I don't know what the hell this guy's thinking.
Okay, Matt is a pillar in the recovery community up here. He's got over 4 years of recovery under his belt. People look up to him all the time. Mm-hmm. I hope to God that he relapsed and he's drinking an umbrella drink on that list together. That is the only thing that could explain this.
Oh, Benzie, if you're watching, man, he's joking. God,
the 49ers, I wouldn't have the 49ers in my top 20.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Especially after all the injuries.
Yeah, they weren't in the top 15 before the injuries. And, no quarterback play. You lose every running back on your roster. And now even after the game, you lose your two of your best defensive players, the best defensive end in football. And he's got him in the top 10? Seriously, dude. He's got to lay off the groundwater.
I don't understand it. And for me, his top 5 gets better. His top 5 isn't horrible. I don't have a problem with his top 5 too much. I do think that he's got one team overrated, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, I mean, he's got 3 1-1 teams there.
Yeah. And that means he's got 4 undefeated teams not in the list.
The Titans aren't there. The Raiders aren't there. Who else isn't there for him? Well, the Bears aren't there, but they ain't in either of ours either. And they shouldn't be in the top 10. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I hope to God, for the sake of his marriage, Taylor, who's a lovely woman, was yelling, "We got to get to the beach," and he was like, "Well, let me just hurry up and get this list together." That's my only hope.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what he's on his honeymoon, so he just kind of scratched together some names and was like, here's my list. Leave me alone for the week. God, I hope that's what it is.
My only hope
didn't get to watch football.
Yeah, where this show now suffers. Hopefully, his marriage succeeds.
Exactly.
All right. You want me to get into my top 5?
Yeah, let's go with your top 5.
And I don't think mine's going to be the same as the top 2. So at number 5, I have the Steelers. The Steelers would have made the playoffs last year with the worst quarterback play I've seen in the last 10 years, and I get to see the Bears play twice a year. So that says a lot. I think that Ben Roethlisberger is the real deal. And I think that he's trying to prove to everyone that he's got a couple more years left in the tank, and he's proven it. Number 4, this is where I'm going to get some flack, I think. I had the Baltimore Ravens. They are the other 2-0. It took 4 guys to run for 230 yards. So, yeah, that's great. But when you start playing against teams with stronger front lines, you're going to have to start throwing the ball, and Lamar Jackson's not going to be able to run. I just don't think that their offense is spread out enough. I think it's a strong running game. I think it's a great running game, but I think that you're going to start stacking 8 guys in the box, and it's going to be, shut down soon. So I'm at 4. It's still respectable, but the top 3 teams I feel are just better than them. The number 3 team I have is the Green Bay Packers. They, I know you probably thought I'd put them at 1, but I think that the Packers handily beat both their opponents. And yes, no one's running to Vegas right now to put money on the Vikings or the Lions to win the Super Bowl, but they are division opponents. And when you don't have a preseason and you don't have all of the OTAs you do in a regular season, the one thing that a coaching staff and a fan base should be able to count on is that you can play well against your division opponents because you play against them twice a year. And the Packers, obviously, I get ripped on for this a lot. The Packers have not done a lot in the offseason to bring in new talent. Their first 2 draft picks were a guy that's going to sit on the bench for the next 3 years and a guy that's getting minimal playing time. So it's the same team they had last year, and they just easily beat their 2 opponents. Number 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. I have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2 because I was not impressed with the way that they played last week. They did pull out a win. It took them till overtime to beat the Chargers, who, let's be honest, they had to play against a rookie quarterback who wasn't expecting to play. It's not like he even had a whole week to lead up to that, and took you to overtime to beat him. And my number 1 team, and this is what pains me, I am a Russell Wilson fan until he graduated from the University of Wisconsin. I am not a Seahawks fan because they've broken my heart way too many times. But I do have to be honest, and the Seahawks are the best team in football right now. 9 touchdown passes by Russell Wilson, the obvious best deep threat quarterback thrower in the league. I had to be honest with my top 10, and I had to put Seattle at number 1.
Oh, look, I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed in you.
My girlfriend says me all the
time. and I don't know how you have the Ravens so low. I don't understand. You talk about beating divisional opponents. They went and beat their divisional opponents, who's probably just as tough as the Detroit Lions are, and they only allowed 6 points.
Yeah, and I agree, but I also believe that when you're rushing the ball for 230 yards, which they did, and it was 4 guys that did that, so it's a lot of guys. There's a lot of horses in that stable.
That's what they did last year too.
No, I agree, but what I'm saying is that it's not as impressive to me as the teams ahead of them. Right, with the way that, so I'm not saying they're trash. Right now, if my list were to, fall through or go through to the end, you would have them playing against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, which I think is still fair. I was more impressed with the way the Seahawks and the Packers played, and I have more faith in the Chiefs long term.
So you're more impressed with the way that the Chiefs barely beat the San Diego Chargers with their backup rookie quarterback than you are with the Ravens, who absolutely destroyed the Cleveland Browns, who are supposed to be a better team this year, and then went out and beat the Texans pretty handily as well.
No, I have more faith in the Chiefs' weapons in a game that's close, in a game that you need. I have more faith in Mahomes and Hill and even CEH, the rookie. I have more faith in all of these weapons.
Well, we're going to find out this weekend because they play. Yes,
exactly. And that's what, and I'm glad you brought that up, because this is all going to be mute next week.
Yep.
Obviously, the team that wins that game is going to be ahead of the other one. So I'm either going to look like a genius or you're going to be making fun of me next week.
Either way, I'm going to be making fun of you, Green Bay Greg. All right. So let's go to Benzi's top 5, and then we'll get to my top 5. So Benzi agrees with you. He's got the Steelers at 5. He disagrees with you. He has the Seahawks at 4. He has the Packers at 3. He has the Chiefs at 2 and the Ravens at 1. Now, I don't have a problem with the way that he has that lined up at all. I have the Packers a little bit lower. So my top 5, I have the Packers at 5. They've shown that they're better than what I thought they were going to be. But at the same time, it does not surprise me that they beat Minnesota and that they beat Detroit. I did have Minnesota winning that first game. I think I overrated Minnesota just a little bit. But I have the Packers at 5. I have the Cardinals at 4. I think the Cardinals are extremely good. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy, and I'll say it every week. And as long as he keeps continuing to prove me wrong, I'll keep him in the rankings. But I'm just not a big Kyler Murray guy. I have a hard time looking, going with a team whose quarterback is barely taller than my 5'1" girlfriend. I watched this guy score a touchdown and then go do chest bumps with his teammates, and his head is hitting them in the chest, and they're standing up. I do have them at 4. I think they've shown that they've got something brewing there. Then I have the Seahawks at 3. Look, the Seahawks, Russell Wilson and that team proved to me this Sunday night that they're for real. The New England Patriots proved to me that they're for real too. They're doing something special over there in New England. They don't look like the 6-10 team that I picked them to be. They look like they might compete with Buffalo for that division, but we'll see. And so I have the Seahawks at 3. I have the Chiefs at 2. Look, they didn't really impress me versus the Rams, but at the same time, like you said, I believe in Patrick Mahomes. I believe in Tyreek Hill. I believe in Travis Kelce. I believe in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They've got the weapons. They are going to be good. And then at number 1, I have the Ravens. The Ravens have gone into their first 2 games. They beat the snot out of the Browns, who were coming out the gate. Everybody was talking about how they're a different team. They're going to compete for the playoffs. They might give the Browns a run for their money in the division, this and that, and they beat them 33-6. Then they go to Houston and play the Texans, and the Texans are not a horrible team. Granted, they lost DeAndre Hopkins, but they're not a horrible team, and their defense is very good. They've got a very solid defense in Houston, and they beat them 33-16. So I have the Ravens at 1, and I don't. That's where it baffles me that you have them way down at 4. But either way, I mean, it's not a horrible top 10. Benzies is a horrible top 10, especially his bottom 5. But the rest of the 2 of us look like smart, Midwest guys.
Exactly. And it pains me to say it, but I got to be honest. I honestly believe that Seattle looks like the most impressive team in the NFL this year, and I had to put them. I had to put them up there. And when I started going between 1 and 2, maybe it was just because I watched that, every snap of that game. It was impressive with the way Russell Wilson was playing. So I had to put him ahead of the Chiefs because the Chiefs
I was more impressed with New England on Sunday night than I was with Seattle. And here's why. When they were down, or when Seattle was up by 12 with, I think it was like 4 minutes to go, I said to myself, this is where Cam Newton in Carolina would wilt. They took that, they got that extra score. They were going up by big points. And then Cam Newton came out and he basically drove them down the field in about 3 or 4 plays and did his thing. And then at the end of the game, I think New England beat themselves. I think New England, they didn't call a timeout there. They got the first and goal at the 5-yard line with 26 seconds to go, and they didn't call a timeout. They ran a play and then called a timeout with 9 seconds to go. They should have called that final timeout with 26 seconds to go and gave Cam Newton 3 to 4 shots at the end zone instead of 1 or 2. So I was more impressed with Cam Newton and the way that New England Patriots, and I hate the Patriots and I hate their fan base, but they went out there and they impressed me more than Seattle did. I thought Seattle should have blown them away, especially with Seattle's offense and the way that the New England defense is missing 2 of their key pieces because they opted out because of COVID. So I was very much more impressed with the New England Patriots than I was the Seattle Seahawks, for sure. Michael Buckheister says that I'm wrong and that the coach did it right. What do you think? Would you have called the timeout with 26 seconds there, or would you let it whittle down to 9?
I wouldn't have let it whittle down to 9 at all. Because when you have 26 seconds left, especially when you have a quarterback like Cam Newton, you have a lot more options than you would have with Tom Brady. You still have time if you're looking for a pass, but in that game, you're not. You don't have a statue in the backfield where it's either find your open receiver or throw it out. Cam can scramble. So I think that if you would have taken about 26 seconds, you give yourself a whole nother play than you would have with a Tom Brady at quarterback.
And they were killing the Seahawks with those slant routes that entire drive. And so when you're on the 5-yard line, if they're looking, you're spread out more than you are when you're at the 2-yard line with 9 seconds to go. So if that coverage is not available, Cam's got the ability to run it off to the sidelines and get out of bounds, or maybe even run it up the middle and run it in.
Exactly.
I thought that the play calling and the clock management was bad on New England's end, and I think that's why that they lost that game there. I disagree with Buckheister. I think the coach did it wrong there. I think he had an Andy Reid moment.
No, I understand where you're coming from when it comes to, that though. I can't get away from the fact that with very little offseason, with no preseason games, Russell Wilson, who's almost as short as Kyler, they both come up to my chest. That he's got 5 touchdown passes in the first 2 games with no preseason. As a Packer fan and as a fan of the team in the NFC, I'm worried. It's like, why can't any of these ACLs happen to someone like him? Or I didn't mean that.
Look, that was another thing this weekend, man. The football gods channeled their inner Oprah, and they were like, "You get an ACL, and you get an ACL, and you get an ACL. Everybody gets an ACL tear." Everybody got hurt, especially the San Francisco 49ers. Dude, they lost their quarterback, their running back, a wide receiver, a tight end, 2 offensive linemen, and their starting center and their backup center.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they overcome this.
I don't know how. Okay, and I don't know the specifics of what happened, but what I do know is the head trainer has to go out on the field 2 hours, 3 hours before the game and run around in different size cleats and ask the players, what size cleats do you want to wear? What do you feel comfortable with? And then it's his job and his staff to put in the correct sized cleats on all the players or the right kind of field turf shoes, whatever the case is. So I don't know if it was a miscommunication. I don't know if, the funny thing is, I know we're going to talk about this in our show, is it a result of not having preseason games where these guys are, coming out of the gate way too fast and their bodies just aren't in NFL game shape?
No, I agree. So Buckheister asked me that today too, and I don't think that ACLs have anything to do with being in game shape. I think if your ACL is going, it's going. You just don't know that it's going till it goes. Yeah. You can't stretch it out. You can't do anything to stop an ACL from tearing. I saw a perfect tweet this weekend. Somebody had tweeted out. They said, "I think the ACL is just there to tear because you never hear of anybody doing anything good with an ACL. So it's just there to tear, and it's one of those things." So we talked about bad takes with your boy here. Now look at Buckheister. It don't matter. NFC team won't win the Super Bowl unless the Cowboys make it. Are you out of your damn mind, Buckheister?
The only reason why the Cowboys have a win this year is because the Atlanta Falcons front hands team has less football intelligence than my 9-year-old son.
Yeah.
When I was 12 years old, I was the ball boy for my dad's high school football team. And I knew at that point when I was 12 years old that the team kicking off can't touch the ball for 10 yards, but the offense can. When I was on the hands team, I'm 6'4". And when I was on the hands team, I was told 3 things. If you can get the ball clean, you dive on it. If it's rolling on the ground, you hit it out of bounds. If it's hit high up in the air, if it's kicked high up in the air and you have to jump up to get it, jump up and bat it out of bounds. Because it doesn't matter. The team receiving it does not have to gain possession if they can just hit it out of bounds. So I don't know for the life of me what Atlanta was thinking, but to Buckheiser's point, if he thinks that the Cowboys deserved a victory there, he's drinking the same brown water that Benzie is down in South Carolina.
I'm telling you. I don't. Maybe they got maybe they went to the same smoke shop. I don't know. Something happened. But no. So you look at the Atlanta Falcons. I'll tell you right now. Anytime the Atlanta Falcons get a 19-point lead or something like that, I'm going straight to my bookmaker and I am putting $100 down that they're losing the game because at some point here I'm going to make some money because that is unbelievable to me. I saw it was 29-10, and I said to myself, all right, look, here's what's going to happen. The Eagles are losing big. The Cowboys are losing big. Every team in that division would have been 0-2, and the Washington, not Redskins anymore, would have been leading that division at 1-1. So I was loving it. I was laughing my ass off. I was creating stuff for the show, and I slowly started getting updates. A Cowboys score. All right, well, Cowboys score. Holy crap. All right, well, the Falcons just went up again. Oh, they just scored it. All right, good. They're fine. They're not going to – Cowboys score. Oh, my God, they're going to do this. And then with like 4 minutes left, it was 39-30, and I said, man, I should really go put money on the Cowboys right now. I think that they're going to come back and win this freaking game. What the hell were they doing with that onside kick? I kept screaming at the TV. I'm like, fall on the ball. All you have to do is fall on the ball.
I was half paying attention. I was probably in the kitchen eating a ridiculous amount of food. But what I remember hearing in the background was this is a really unconventional, unorthodox way to kick the football. Because the guy didn't use a tee. He just laid it on the ground, and I'm like, okay, I got to watch this. What's he going to do? And I honestly thought what he was going to do, and no sarcasm, I honestly thought that what the kicker was going to do was he was going to try to line up and kick the ball as hard as he could in a straight line and try to hit one of the Falcons players and have it bounce off his chest, and it would be a live ball. I had no idea because I thought in my 44-year-old mind of watching football for 40 years, I thought there was not a team in the NFL that wouldn't have known. If he's just going to dribble it down, the Falcons could have literally built a wall on the Cowboys side of the ball before they touched it, and then had a guy dive on the ball, already had his hands and knees in the fetal position, and let the ball roll to him before 10 yards.
Yeah, no, I don't get it. I don't understand too how you score 39 points, you don't turn over the ball, and you find a way to lose. Like, it's not like the Cowboys were taking the ball away. It's not like Matt Ryan was making mistakes. It's not like they weren't trying to run the clock down. They just when they got to 3rd down and 4, 3rd down and 5, 3rd down and 6, they couldn't stop Zeke.
Yeah,
it wasn't even like Dak was killing them. It was Zeke that was killing them.
You know, that's I agree with you. From the Super Bowl till the other day, I agree that the Falcons are one of the most mysterious teams in the NFL. The other thing that really confuses me, we all do fantasy football, and Julio Jones is always listed as one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. And from an NFL quality wide receiver standpoint, he is. But I would like to know how this team can have that player on their team for as long as they have, and he never finds the freaking end zone.
I don't understand. I don't understand the Atlanta Falcons at all. You know what's the best thing about the Atlanta Falcons is their fan base makes the New York Jets fan base feel okay.
Oh yeah.
New York Jets fans are like, well, at least we're not the Falcons. It could be worse. Like, I don't understand it. Michael Buckheiser is going off right now. Man hour is greater than Triple Shot Sports. False, sir. False. That is another incorrect. Dak is greater than Lamar. That is also false. You are okay. You must be hitting the booze or something because there is.
I know he's got little kids I know he's got little kids at home, but he should take his little kids away from the keyboard because obviously I would hope that they're the ones typing all this.
Yeah, I
used to have respect for both.
Yeah, you did?
Until I saw the Dak comment.
Yeah, I did too until I saw his preseason NFL running back rankings, and he had King Henry at 7 while he had Miles Sanders at 4.
Yeah, so. I saw that too. Yeah, I tried calling into his show, and I got on to do his trivia, and he had, the question was, Miles Sanders was the answer, but it was like, who are the top 5 running backs they had? And I wouldn't have guessed Miles Sanders if Miles Sanders was sitting in my living room next to me saying, pick me.
Well, I would have never. I had a hot take too before the season that drew some ire from the man hour there. LeBlanc called me up as I typed it on their comment section of the show, called me up, made me come on his show. I think Jameis Winston is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I think that he is, for one, he's the only quarterback last year who threw for over 5,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. Now, I get the interceptions. Everybody wants to talk about the interception and all the interceptions that he's threw. But it was the average. Like he's averaging, I think it was 14 interceptions the season before last year. Last year, his numbers doubled. I don't see that ever happening again for a guy like that. I think the best thing for him was to go ahead and learn from a guy like Drew Brees, who runs kind of like the same program that he does. He's a mobile passing quarterback with a crazy arm, just like Jameis Winston is. But I feel like I listed it out there, and I had him as the 8th best quarterback in the NFL heading into this season, and he's a backup.
It's hard for me to comment on that from a standpoint of kind of looking at this from a different perspective. I think that Jameis Winston is a victim of other people's perception of him. And that's coming out of college. He was seen as, a guy who could throw the ball a mile, but he didn't have a whole lot between the ears. And you had to work with that. Now, there's guys mainly that played for the green and gold from 1992 till they got rid of him. Brett Favre was famous for throwing 30 interceptions a year and never throwing 5,000 yards. But the thing with it was his touchdown receptions or touchdown passes were coming at opportune times. I don't think that Jameis Winston is trash. I would be willing to put money that he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL next year, whether it's with the Saints or with someone else.
I agree.
Because he's going to get that year, like you said. And I agree with you. This is the best thing to happen to him.
I think he's going to start for the Saints. I don't think that they want Taysom Hill to be a starting quarterback. They want him to be that gimmick guy and that's what they paid him to be. They paid him a lot of money to be a gimmick guy. They did not pay him to be the successor to Drew Brees. I mean, you don't put a guy like that as your starting quarterback. So I would put, I think if I had to put money down on it right now, I would put Jameis Winston. That's just me. Now, people talk about, and I bring this up all the time, there was another quarterback who very well, who threw for a ton of interceptions throughout his career, and is still a Hall of Fame quarterback. Granted, he only won 1 Super Bowl, but he still had a very good career, and that's Brett Favre. Brett Favre once had a season where he threw for 29 interceptions. Yep. So I think that their game is similar. I think he tries to make a lot of things happen. And so therefore he does make a lot of mistakes throwing the ball. He throws into coverage a lot. He tries to squeeze things in because he's got a crazy arm, just like Brett Favre did. He tries to squeeze balls in. And sometimes they just get picked off. So
as a football fan and as just a fan of just showing your cojones, I would rather have a quarterback like Jameis Winston who's willing to take chances than a quarterback like Kirk Cousins who somehow he's missing the DNA strand to make him a man. Because he is the biggest sissy I've ever seen behind center in the NFL. And I know Mike and Matt right now are kind of jumping off the Kirk bandwagon a little bit, but I think he's trash. And I think the fact that they guaranteed him that much money for as long as they have is what's handicapping the the Vikings right now because they can't spend money on other players. When you have a guy like Jameis who you pick him up in the offseason for next to nothing, let him sit. If he comes back and throws 5,000 yards, if he throws 30 touchdown passes, and let's say he only throws 20 interceptions because he learned how to play the game a little better, he's an all-pro quarterback. I agree with you.
Yeah. Joshua Seavey, who is a big Minnesota Vikings fan and a fan of the show, always chiming in here. He did go MIA for a couple of weeks, so we haven't been able to find him, but he is back. I'm glad to see that he is okay, and he agrees with me that towel blanket behind you makes me want to puke.
That's fine, but I just right now I messaged this into your show, and I love that he's a Viking fan because really for all the Kirk Cousins fans. The only people you have to thank are the Green Bay Packer fans because I'm pretty confident that before games at Lambeau, we would pass the hat around and pay Kirk Cousins' salary like we used to do with Jay Cutler. The longer we can keep them in the division, the better. Jay Cutler is like the fourth best quarterback in Green Bay history, isn't he? Yep. He was on our payroll, and Kirk is going to do the same. As soon as you ever hear anything about the Vikings wanting to get rid of Kirk Cousins, don't worry, a day later you're going to hear that he signed another like $35 million a year contract. I'll never forget that NFC title game where you see your boy there, Cutler, riding a bike on the sidelines while saying his knee hurts too much to play. Yep. And I still love, as someone who hates, because I'm from Milwaukee. So growing up, my rivalry as a Packer fan was always the Bears. Because we were just proximity-wise, you were just a lot closer. Yeah. I still think the funniest thing is you have to go back to 1985 for them to win the Super Bowl with Jim McMahon. But when they did make the Super Bowl with Lovie Smith as the head coach, it was with Rex Grossman as your quarterback. Yep. I mean, who did answer that trivia question correctly? Anyone would have thought it was Jake Cutler, given all these. It was Rex Gross, sexy Rexy. Yeah. Man, you know what's funny is that year that Grossman, and there's another trivia question for you. That year that Grossman took them to the Super Bowl, it was the defense that took them to the Super Bowl, just like it was for our boys back in '85. They won 4 games that season without scoring an offensive touchdown. I did not know that, but that does not surprise me for a second. four games without scoring an offensive touchdown, and they went to the Super Bowl. Wow. That's insane, isn't it? Yeah. That's good. All right. Well, Green Bay Greg, why don't you tell these guys where they can find you and find your shows? Thanks a lot. Yeah, we got Twist. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube. That's The Week in Sports Talk, or Twist, The Week in Sports Talk online. We're also on the RTF, soon-to-be All-Access Sports Network. The Twist family has the 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern time slot. It's Twist Mondays. Mike Reeves' show, Mike on the Mic on Tuesdays, me, GBG, Green Bay Greg on Wednesdays, Twist again on Thursdays, and Matt with Benzi's Bit on Fridays, all 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern on the RTF, soon-to-be All Access Sports Network. Or you can, like I said, you can go on Facebook, follow us. Our show usually broadcasts live on Saturday afternoons, or just replay it anytime you want on YouTube, on the Twitter sphere, on any of the other social media outlets, but Twist, The Week in Sports Talk. All right, man. Hey, look, thank you for joining me. Thank you for giving me 48 minutes of your time so I didn't have to do this whole thing solo. But yeah, no, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was a good time. We'll have you guys back on again. My pleasure. I appreciate it. Have a good night. You too, sir. All right, guys. So for the last hour and 10 minutes, you are with me, myself and I and all of my friends here. So we've got the Joe Mauer and the Lou Brock hanging up. I know if Soup Boss was here, he'd be like, I can't believe we have a Cardinals jersey hanging up. But I do. I want to remind you guys that these are 2 of the prizes that are in. All we are trying to do is get to 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel. You find the Triple Shot Sports Podcast on YouTube and just click subscribe. Once we get to 100 subscribers, we will put all the names into a drawing. And we have, right now, we are down to 7 prizes. We started off with 10. We take away 1 each week. So don't make us get down to 6. Let's give away 7 prizes to 7 listeners and get to 100 this week before Sunday, shall we?
All right, so I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, we are going to get into some baseball. We will get into your comments. Keep throwing them at me, guys. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. Let me know what you guys want to hear, and we will get to it here in just a moment. I will be right back.
More battles than you ever fought nowadays. From 6'9" and then tattle when they get caught. I'm sticking to the code. Jumping for the sonic, then with the flow, only getting high. To hit the road, trying to make these dollars. Even book more, fuck everybody. Hi, it's my gun, I'm a god. You see me with the lights off. It's a motherfucking star. I said that on the first call. It's my first step on. A bitch, you getting no way. But now you don't fucking do, cause you're all up, so no way. Put that ass on low, on the low. Time to put the ass on no. Hey, no, let them know. Go ahead, put the ass on no. It's time to take over the globe, baby. No way they ain't gon' know. Here we go, from the go. I'ma put the ass on no. On the low, about to blow. Time to put the ass on no. Hey, no, let them know. Go ahead, put the ass on no. It's time to take over the globe, baby. No way they ain't gon' know. That's not.
All right, guys. So I am back. Look, we have a lot of stuff going on, especially in the baseball world. So I want to get to some of the baseball stuff. I know some of the guys listening, typically Jared Parrott, especially Tim Leonard, the Strikeout Beer Boys. Guys are all big baseball guys, and so am I, and that's what I know. So that's what I want to talk about with you guys here today. We are in the final week of the season. We have got a lot of stuff to go on. The National League is still wide open when it comes to some of their second place teams and their wild card teams. I was watching Philadelphia look like garbage in game one of their doubleheader today versus the Nationals. So there is a lot of stuff to go over, and I want to get to it here with you guys. Let me get through some of these comments, though. Let's see here. If Julio Jones catches that pass in the end zone, do you think the Falcons would have won? Well, yeah, because then, you wouldn't have had enough time to come back from 3 scores down as opposed to 2. So, yeah, they definitely would have won that game. How many wins do the Lions get? 3 or 2? Man, I think that they're better than what they've played. I had them at 7-9 this year. I think they'll probably get to 5, Mike Malone. I don't know that they'll get much more than that. I just think that they are a tough team to figure out who is doing what. They got a quarterback that's coming off of a broken neck, a broken back, and you just don't know what he's going to give you. You don't know if his next hit is going to be his last. So that's why I'm down on the Detroit Lions. And I'll give them 5 wins. I'll say they'll probably end up 5-11, possibly 6-10, but they've got to get it going, much like the Minnesota Vikings need to get it going. So Cousins is less than a dumpster fire. Look, Cousins is having a bad start. The Minnesota Vikings are having a bad start. That secondary is young, and they've been exposed so far. So they've got some work to do. I think that they're going to go out and wake up this week, and I think it starts against the Tennessee Titans. I know Tim Leonard, if you're still watching, you're going to disagree with that, but I feel like they are just they need to wake up at some point, and if they don't wake up this week, they're done. So I think that they're going to find a way to figure out how to go to Tennessee and beat Tennessee this week. But that's just me. All right, guys, so let's get to some baseball talk here. So we've got a lot of things going on in the standings. So the American League has a lot of teams that have clinched already. You've got the Tampa Bay Rays have clinched. You got the New York Yankees have clinched. Tampa Bay Rays have a 4.5 game lead on that division with, 36-19. So they've got 55 games played. So there's 5 games left. They got a 4.5 game lead. They're going to win that division. So the New York Yankees are going to get the 2 seed out of that division. They are 3 games up on the Toronto Blue Jays for the 2nd spot, so they've already clinched a playoff spot. The Chicago White Sox, I picked the Chicago White Sox to win the division before the season started. Any of you guys who are watching the show know that I've been big on the White Sox since they started. I'm not a White Sox fan. I don't root for the White Sox, even though Soup Boss likes to give me a lot of crap about it. But they are a fun team to watch. They're just really good. I love the game of baseball. I love good baseball, and that's what the White Sox bring you. They are a game and a half ahead of the Minnesota Twins with 6 games to play. The Minnesota Twins aren't out of this yet. This is going to be a race down to the wire. The Sox get the Cubs in the final weekend, and they're going to need to win all those games, while the Cubs probably would have clinched by the time this weekend rolls around. They are 4.5 games up right now on the St. Louis Cardinals. They're currently down in the 6th inning to the Pirates 2-0. But the White Sox and Twins is going to be a close one. Whoever wins that division, I think that whoever loses, let's put it this way, whoever loses that division is going to give the higher seed hell when they play in the wild card round, because the loser of that division has to go on the road and play. But they are so scrappy and so talented that they're not an easy out. You're not guaranteed to win just because you're the higher seed and you're hosting. The Cleveland Indians are not out of it by any stretch of the imagination. They are going to get a wild card spot. They hold the top wild card spot. They are 2 games ahead of the Toronto Blue Jays. They are 3 games ahead of the Houston Astros. The Cleveland Indians are an interesting team to me. I think that the deal of Clevenger and sending him off, for some reason, it seemed to have hurt them a little bit. I don't know if it screwed up the rotation. I don't know if maybe they just weren't deep enough. Whatever the case is, as soon as they made that trade, they fell off. They were in first place when they made that trade, and they've fallen off ever since. And the White Sox have just caught fire. The White Sox are 6-4 in their last 10, as are the Minnesota Twins. The Cleveland Indians are 4-6 in their last 10. So they're going to get that wild card spot, but they're not a very scary team heading into the playoffs. The West is kind of interesting too. So you got the A's. They won the division last night. So congratulations to Oakland Athletics. They are heading in probably as the number 2 seed in the playoffs, as the Tampa Bay Rays will be the 1 seed. They are 3 games up on Oakland for that. The Houston Astros and Seattle Mariners are the interesting ones. So the Houston Astros are 3 games ahead of the Seattle Mariners. Let's see, who do they got on their schedule? So they've got the Houston Astros have where's their schedule at? Here we go. So they've got Seattle tonight and tomorrow night, and then they've got 4 at Texas Rangers. So these next 2 games, which they lost last night to Seattle, if Seattle wins these next 2 games and sweeps Houston could be looking at not being in the playoffs at all, because that second wild card spot is not a guarantee right now. You have got a lot of teams that are vying for that second playoff spot in the American League. Let's see here. You've got, where did the standings go? Here we go. So you've got the Houston Astros. If they end up, boinking out and letting Seattle take over, you'll have the Houston Astros, the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Baltimore Orioles all vying for that second wild card spot. And right now, to me, the Toronto Blue Jays are a better team than the Houston Astros. The Cleveland Indians are better than the Houston Astros. The Seattle Mariners better than the Houston Astros. So there's a way that they sneak in here and grab that 2 spot, and Houston could be on the outside looking in and not make it into the playoffs. So I'm not sure, I'm not sure who to pick when it comes to the American League. The American League is very much wide open. I don't think you have a clear-cut winner in the American League, just like I don't think you have a clear-cut winner in the National League, and I'll get to that here in a moment. But in the American League, I don't see the Rays look really good. The Oakland A's have looked really good, even though they've cooled off over the last 2 to 3 weeks or so. The Yankees are interesting. The Yankees, they have the pitching that can win in the postseason. As long as the pitching performs. Garrett Cole hasn't performed very well this year. Their pitching staff hasn't performed very well this year. So they're going to rely a lot on that offense. And in the playoffs, as you know, pitching plays. If you've got really good pitching in the playoffs, that's what goes here. So I'm not too sure that there's a clear-cut favorite. I like the White Sox a lot. The White Sox are the White Sox are a team that could be in the World Series. I know here in Chicago, we would love to see a White Sox-Cubs World Series. That would be the ultimate. I think the city would burn down, but a White Sox-Cubs World Series would be absolutely insane. So I wouldn't count them out. The Twins are also an interesting play. I wouldn't count them out. I don't think the Oakland A's have what it takes to win the American League. I don't think they have the pitching, or I think they're a nice story, but I don't think they have what it takes to compete. The Cleveland Indians are going to make the playoffs, but they're not a very scary team, as we mentioned. Toronto Blue Jays might make the playoffs. They're not a very scary team. The Houston Astros aren't very scary. So I think it's between them four, the Rays, the Yankees, the White Sox, and the Twins. Then we get over to the National League. Now, the National League is interesting. So only 2 teams have clinched playoff spots in the National League, and that is the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. Now, I talked earlier about how the Cubs are probably going to win the division. They're probably going to clinch a playoff spot. If it's not tonight, tomorrow night or something, they're going to win that division. I don't foresee them losing, 5 straight games, I don't see them losing their last 6 and losing this division. That's just me. They're going to win 1 or 2 more of this 4-game set against the Pirates, and that'll clinch the division for them. The Cardinals and the Reds. So the Reds right now have more wins than the Cardinals, but are tied with them in the division because the Cardinals haven't played as many games because they are still playing catch-up from their 3-week break with COVID. The Cardinals might end up on the outside looking in. They are right now they're a game ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers, but they've got so many games left to play that they're at the end of this streak. If they make the playoffs, I'll be very impressed because they would have played 29 games in 24 days. 29 games in 24 days. Now put that into perspective. That's a lot of games in a long stretch without an off day. They haven't had an off day in this stretch either. So if they make the playoffs, I'll be very impressed with what they did because that's a lot of baseball to play down the stretch. And you've got to be tired at this point. I mean, they've got to be reeling, but they keep finding ways to pluck out a win here and there. They keep splitting their double headers. So I don't know. We'll see. That one's going to be interesting. That 2 seed in the Central is going to be very interesting. The Padres and the Dodgers are, have already clinched the 1 and 2 seed. The Giants aren't going to catch the Padres. The Padres probably aren't catching the Dodgers. They're 4 back of the Dodgers. Dodgers are going to win that division. Now, I said this last week, and Soup Boss kind of poo-pooed it. Last week, I had said that there's one team that the Los Angeles Dodgers don't want to see in the first round, and that's the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds have that team that nobody wants to see in the postseason. They've got the pitching, they've got the offense, they're young, they're talented, and they're hungry. They are not a team you want to see in the playoffs, especially in a 3-game series. Now, in a 7-game series, may it be a little bit of a different story because they're not that deep in the rotation? Probably. But if you go out there and you lay an egg in game 1 and they jump up 1 game on you and you're forced to win 2 straight from them, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And they've, like I said, they've got the pitching that can beat you. They've got the pitching that can go into Los Angeles and win 2 out of 3 games. They just did it to the Chicago White Sox. They came to Chicago and took 2 out of 3 from the Chicago White Sox in Chicago. And the White Sox were hot. And they're still hot. But the Cincinnati Reds came and handled business, and that's what the Cincinnati Reds do. So the Dodgers absolutely do not want to see them in the postseason. What else we got here? So when you come to a wild card, whoever takes that 2nd seed for the Central is going to be competing with the Miami Marlins or the Philadelphia Phillies, whoever doesn't take 2nd in the East. Again, I watched the Phillies. They did not look very good today. They looked uninterested today in that first game of the doubleheader versus the Nationals. I just see something flash up on the TV screen that they are actually up in the top of the 8th, 7-6, in the nightcap of their doubleheader. Now it's a 7-inning game. So they blew a lead in that one too. So the Philadelphia Phillies could be in trouble here because they could find themselves on the outside looking in. And the Miami Marlins, who the hell even plays on this team? I could name you a pitcher. I could name you Urania. But beyond Urania, I couldn't name you anybody who plays on this team. And they are second in the East. I didn't even think that they were going to win 20 games this year. In this 60-game shortened season, I thought they were destined for 20-40. They've come out of nowhere. They battled COVID. They had to take that first first week and a half off because of COVID. And they battled back. And now they're in position to be a 4 or 5 seed in the National League. It blows my mind how good the Miami Marlins have been this season. The Cardinals, the Reds, I think that the Reds will take the second seed. So then you have the Cardinals with 26 wins. You have the Brewers with 26 wins. You have the Phillies with 27 wins. And you've got the San Francisco Giants with 26 wins, another team that I don't know how they're winning ball games. I don't know how they're better than the Rockies. I don't know how they're better than the Diamondbacks, but they found a way to do it. Some of those teams have laid eggs. There's some conspiracy theories out there as to why big-name stars aren't performing. You've heard guys like Javier Baez of my Chicago Cubs out there talking about how it's hard because he doesn't get to watch in-game film. So it's something that he's been used to, and it's something that he enjoys doing. It's a way that he makes his adjustments in-game. Now, I don't know if there's any validity to that, but I don't get it. My buddy Dave Sizemore, can you hit on how bad your fantasy football team sucks? Look, I won in my Yahoo league this week, but in both of my ESPN leagues, in our league, Dave, I went up. In my defense, I went up against a guy who had like 90 points between his quarterback and one of his running backs. So that was my first problem. I'm gonna bring it up here now because now you're gonna make me explain this. But yes, my fantasy team has not been good through the first 2 games. I lost the first week pretty good, and then this week here, as the app is having some problems loading. The second week, I lost 162-73. It was not good. Let's look at the matchup here. So he had Matt Ryan, who scored 28.52 points. He had Aaron Jones, who scored 44.6. Aaron Jones on his own outscored my quarterback and my running back by 10 points. So yeah, it's been a bad week. Michael Thomas didn't get to play. Chris Godwin was out for me. I benched James Conner because I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to play. And I had to work on Sunday, so I didn't want to forget about it. So I took him out of the lineup and put in Peyton Barber from Washington. That cost me 20 points. But even with the 20 points, I wasn't even going to come close this week. The other guy has a squad, and they blew me away. I'll come back, though, Dave. I'll come back. I am not worried at all. I'm going to make some moves, and I'm coming back. Mike Fink just joined. Are we talking baseball? Yes, I've been talking baseball. I went through the American League and the National League playoffs. Where I was going at the end there before Dave asked me to get into my fantasy football team and how bad they were. We are definitely just busting balls. Thanks for taking my question. Yeah, absolutely. I will take as many questions tonight as I can get, as I am forced to go solo tonight. I had somebody lined up to be a guest host and bailed on the last minute. But Sully and I will talk at a different date, maybe in an octagon, Sully. But no, for real. I'll take all the questions I can get, so keep them coming. I will answer any questions you guys want to talk about. But Mike Fink, yes. So we're talking sports. So I said in the American League, I think 4 teams are real legit contenders for the World Series. I said the Tampa Bay Rays, New York Yankees, Chicago White Sox, and the Minnesota Twins. The Oakland A's, I don't think are a legit contender for the World Series. I don't think that they have what it takes. They've been down the last 2 weeks. Luckily for them, they won 30 games before anybody had won even, I think, 26. So they had a good run, but they've cooled down as of late. The Chicago White Sox, to me, again, I picked the White Sox before the season started. I picked them to win the division. They're a game and a half up. That division is not wrapped up yet. The White Sox have a tough road. They're playing a tough opponent right now. Can't remember exactly who it was. I do know they have a tough stretch. So, and then they finished the season against the Cubs, who might already have the division wrapped up. So that's going to be an interesting one because the Cubs White Sox, it's more of a fan rivalry than it is team rivalry. The fans get into it more than the teams do, but it's going to be an interesting one. It would be interesting to watch this last weekend of baseball before the playoffs start on Tuesday. Now, in the National League, I don't think that there's any way I could give you 4 names because I think that there is so much parity in the National League. I think that the Reds in a short series are a really scary team for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And if the playoffs started today, that's who they would play. And I don't think that the Los Angeles Dodgers want to see Cincinnati in a short series. Cincinnati's a scary team in the playoffs in short series for sure. The Miami Marlins are interesting. I couldn't name you a player other than Urania that plays on their team, and I just don't know who they are, and I don't know enough about them to pick them. The Atlanta Braves don't have enough pitching to win in the playoffs. I'm sorry, Tim Leonard, but they just don't. They don't have enough pitching to compete in postseason play. San Diego Padres are just like they're the National League version of the Chicago White Sox. They're young, they're exciting, they're scrappy. They are a scary team for anybody to have to play them in the postseason. They've got the pitching, they've got the lineup. They could absolutely be a contender. My Cubs, man. My Cubs are a team that is hot and cold. They're very streaky. Sometimes their pitching's really, really good. Yu Darvish has been Cy Young worthy this year. Kyle Hendricks is always very good, especially in the postseason. You can never count out John Lester in the postseason. We had great. Now I can't think of his name. Quintana came off of the injury list today. Pitched tonight against Pittsburgh through 6 solid innings. That pitching staff is pretty good. Their bullpen has been great as of late. I was very much down on the back end of the bullpen, especially, the guy. God, why am I so bad with names when it comes time to get on it? But afterwards, I can spout out any name I want to. Oh, man, I can't think of his name. But anyway, back end of the bullpen was not very good at the start of the season, but they've come on as of late. Jeremy Jeffress has taken over as probably who I would put it in the 9th inning as a closer. Kimbrel is the name that I was thinking of. He has turned it on as of late. He looks very good lately. His fastball has a ton of movement on it. Their offense is too very, very streaky. I said before the season started, I picked Chris Bryant as my least valuable player on a winning team, and he's proven me right. He's hitting 206 or something like that, something gross this year, much like Javi Baez is as well. I don't think Rizzo has hit very well yet this year. Rizzo's always a notorious slow starter, so I don't think a shortened season really helped him out very much. But regardless, now Bryant's injured again. He's already been on the injured list once. He's on the injured list again with the oblique strain. He may not even play the rest of the year, and he may have played his last game in a Cubs uniform. I think that they're going to find a way to trade him this offseason and unload him for some pitching and for some young talent. So can the Cubs do it? Yes, I think that they are equally as competitive as the Dodgers. I think they're as equally competitive as the Padres, and they've already won a World Series, so they know what it takes to do so. But so the National League for me is very interesting. I don't think they have a clear front runner. Darn, I should have joined tonight. I don't like the Twins since the Yankees have owned them, and don't like the White Sox for the lack of versatility in fielding. Abreu can only play first. I also like Rays pitching since carries baseball playoffs. Mike, why don't you give me a call? I'll have you on as a guest on the phone. You want to call in? I could certainly have you on as a guest. We could talk some baseball. I'm down for that. Got about 45 minutes left of the show. So if you want to call in, man, feel free to give me a buzz. I believe you have the number. If not, let me know. I'll shoot you a quick PM with the number on it. What else did you say here? In the National League, we will see power bats take control. Think about the 2-hitter-friendly ballparks. This helps home run hitting teams. Conversely, the American League playoffs are played in pitching-friendly parks, San Diego, LA, maybe Arizona. That's true. Nothing wrong there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to see if I can get Mike Fink on the phone here to join me, and we will battle on some baseball talk. So bear with me here. Give me, I don't know, about 35, 45 seconds, maybe minute and a half, something around there. And I will be right back with you.
She left me for dead, all cause you were scared you would lose a little bread. Guess what now you did? Told me go to hell. With the love lost between us, starting nowhere. Cause I love who I am. 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 And I ain't changing it for me. This ain't about no ego. This one here for me though. Times you gotta put your needs for needs of other people. But how come that's so hard for me? It's like I got no heart for me. Stuff the pain, suffocate. Damn, I swear I'm hardly breathing. Tired of being number two to everybody else that are taking a toll on my mental health. Why am I so loyal to these songs who let me on the show? Why do I care what these people think when they don't think of me? Tell them that I got no pot to piss and they just piss on me. Class and session partner, cause we used to read. I did the math, our partners leaves a fit for me. 20% when I do 80
Hello?
out of work. Plus when it is daily since the day
Yes, sir.
of my birth. I don't know what you're talking, let me make
Yep.
it
I'll bring it back from break here in just 1 second.
Please don't think I'm joking, let me paint the picture for you. You gon' take a pay, cause straight.
All right, coming back right now. All right, guys. So we are back from break. I do have with me on the line is Mike Fink. He is a blogger from the RTF Sports Network, soon to be the All Access Sports Network. Mike, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. We're in the sports. I think I've said this earlier. We're in the sports equinox, where we've got three of the big four sports are entering the playoffs or in the playoffs, and the NFL season kicked off. It's weird, but it's great still, and it's an exciting time to be a sports writer or a podcaster.
Oh, man, it is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot wait for the baseball playoffs. I know next Thursday, I was looking at the playoffs and the bracket and everything. Next Thursday, there is 8 playoff baseball games on TV starting from noon all the way until 9 o'clock Central Time.
I'm really excited. We had the NHL and NBA playoffs when they were doing that. It's going to be that plus some, because we're going to see just back-to-back games also, because there's not going to be travel, which conversely can be problematic for teams that need to get pitchers out on longer rest days, because as you know, there used to be the NLDS or ALDS were 5 games, but it took 7 days, so someone could pitch game 1 and 4.
Yep.
So definitely, really, it's going to be an interesting playoffs. I mean, we all know that.
Yep.
And it's. I think pitching is going to carry, especially in the American League.
Yeah, pitching, especially in October, pitching always plays. Good pitching always beats good hitting. For some reason in October, it's more true than it is in the regular season even. So I agree. And that's why one of my takes last week, which I told Soup Boss, and he disagreed with me, the Los Angeles Dodgers, as good as they have been, they don't want to see the Cincinnati Reds in a short series, a 3-game series.
Interesting. The Reds are an interesting team because they live and die by the home run ball, which doesn't work in baseball playoffs, but also does not generally work to win to win games. That being said, they're going to play in Globe Life Park and Minute Maid Park, two homer-friendly parks. That can actually help them. The Reds, I don't know. After Trevor Bauer, do you really have a lot of confidence in the rest of the rotation? That's the big question.
I'm not so sure I have utmost confidence in their rotations. I mean, Sonny Gray is a nice pitcher. Trevor Bauer is their second. Then Luis Castillo, he's been pretty good. DeScalfini's not bad. Molly is not bad. The thing for me is their bullpen. Their bullpen is really good. Archie Bradley, Amir Garrett, Michael Lorenzen, these are all very good arms in their bullpen. So I think that their pitching can actually play a part in this series. And if they can steal a game one in a best-of-3 series, which would be played, as of right now, they'd be playing Los Angeles in Los Angeles. So I think that in a 3-game series, they pose a real threat to teams like the Dodgers or even the Padres.
For sure. Padres have 4 games behind on the Dodgers, so it looks very unlikely that they're going to take the best record. We're all rooting for it because the Dodgers have won the division for 8 years in a row, and
yeah,
kind of getting sick of that.
Well, we're rooting for it because me and Soup Boss picked the Padres to win the NL West before the season started. So,
yeah, I made 5. One of my articles I wrote was 5 wild predictions. One of them was Fernando Tatis wins the MVP.
Yep,
which looks very good. I looking at the field, and the Braves pitching does not excite me. But if we're playing in home run friendly ballparks, that's a team that would love to play in Globe Life Park and Minute Maid. And then in the playoffs, Ronald Acuna can hit. He did it last year. Freddie Freeman, a very good hitter. With baseball, I always say this about baseball playoffs in general, is that in the MLB, a great team, a great full roster gets you to the playoffs.
Right.
Once you're there, 1 or 2 guys win you the World Series. And you think about the Giants are a good example where they had depth when they won those 3 World Series, but Pablo Sandoval would step up, would be the most clutch hitter all of a sudden. And Madison Bumgarner became the most clutch pitcher. It's those individual players who win you a World Series.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so Tim Leonard chimes in and he says, as I try not to get excited because I just watched Anthony Rizzo smash a game-tying 2-run home run in the 8th inning against the Pirates right now. But Tim Leonard chimes in and says, Freddie Freeman will be your NL MVP. You think Freeman is more deserving right now, Tim Leonard, than your Fernando Tatis? Because I agree with Mike Fink, man. I agree with you. I think it's Fernando Tatis's award to lose.
Yeah, there's a ton of National League people, you just think Mookie Betts, low-key, has been having a great season.
Yep.
There's something I always think about, especially with all awards on every sport, and baseball is no exception, is at some point we have to make an award called the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, where basically Jacob deGrom should earn the Lifetime Achievement Award for Cy Young because people are tired of voting him for this. He should win it again. He might for the 3rd year in a row, but people might get tired of voting him every year, the Cy Young. So we should just give him a Lifetime Achievement Award and say, you don't win the Cy Young anymore, but you basically you would if like but we don't want to vote you every year, so we're going to give it this year to like Yu Darvish or Trevor Bauer.
And Yu Darvish has been having an amazing season. He's been the Cubs' best pitcher. And a lot of people, they if you don't look at the numbers, and if you're not a baseball person and you're just a casual fan, you wouldn't know how good Yu Darvish has been this year. He has been very, very good for the Cubs. He's been the biggest mainstay for the Cubs pitching staff. Who's the young pitcher that has been just as good? I believe he's from Atlanta, maybe. And I mean, DeGrom's been good too. Kershaw's
Fried, maybe.
Kershaw's been, yeah. There you go.
I with Yu Darvish, one of the things I think people still remember him for what he it's going to forever. It's going to be something that's going to have to haunt Cubs fans. Is how he pitched in the World Series against the Astros in 2017. You might say that the Astros had intel on him and knew which pitches were coming, so we'll give him a break there. But he looked awful in that World Series. And as a Cubs fan, you got to worry about him being the ace, trotting him out in Game 1 against, you probably would play the Cardinals or Marlins, a team that can just get on base.
Yeah. So you look at Max Fried. Max Fried has pitched 55 innings and given up 12 earned runs, while Yu Darvish has pitched 69 innings and 17 earned runs. And Yu Darvish has pitched 14 more innings, but only has one more start. His ERA is at 2.22, while Max Fried is at 1.96. Fried is 7-0, while Darvish is 7-3. And then you got Clayton Kershaw, who's 6-2 with a 2.15. And so, and then I know it never goes to a reliever, but Jeremy Jeffress of the Cubs has been absolutely outstanding. He's pitched in 21 games this season. He has 22.1 innings pitched. He's only given up 4 runs. He has 16 strikeouts. He has 8 saves. He's 4-1 with a 1.61. So he's another one that, and I know it's very rare they ever give it to a reliever. As a matter of fact, I can't even tell you the last one who won it. Maybe
I think Trevor Hoffman in like 2006.
Yeah. So I mean, Max Fried probably is your winner there, just because he is 7-0, and they love that this guy hasn't lost all season stat or whatnot. I think win-loss record for a pitcher is kind of an overblown stat. Because, I mean, if you look at that, then Jacob deGrom would win every single year because he never gets any hitting. What did he have last night? He gave up 2 runs, gave up 4 hits, and he lost 2-1.
It's almost every time he pitches. I think his ERA is like a 1, which is insane for like. I mean, he's definitely destined to go to Cooperstown. So. And that he might not win the Cy Young. They might give it to Max Fried and Jacob deGrom's again like a 1 ERA, and like I mean that's part of why like my lifetime achievement award idea is just in all sports, just like at some point you kind of like you win that award for just being. For just being that good.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the field now. So the Cubs are the 2 seed. They would play the Reds in the first round if the season ended today.
Yeah, but I think the Reds are going to overtake the Cardinals for that 2 seed in the division. I think that the Cardinals and they're on an unbelievable stretch right now where they are playing 29 games in 24 days. That's unbelievable to me, for one. And the fact that they still keep finding ways to split their double headers and still come out every day and grind out wins to even stay in this race, to me, is beyond me. And they've got a week ahead of them where let me see here. Let me get back to their schedule real quick. But they've got this week ahead of them where they really need to play well. And wins wise, they are only a win ahead of the Reds and a win ahead of the Brewers. So they are not a lock to have that 2 seed. I really do think that the Reds are going to end up with that 2 seed. So they have here so they've got Kansas City tonight and Kansas City tomorrow. And then they've got 5 games against Milwaukee to close out the season. And if Milwaukee takes that series, Milwaukee's going to finish ahead of them. So essentially that series is going to be for that final playoff spot in the National League.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it like that. I mean, it's going to definitely be a battle. The Cardinals and Marlins have both really impressed because they both had to lose like a week or more of baseball, so they just had to like do those double headers all the time. But you have to think that they'd hit a wall at some point, and they haven't yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess we're just waiting for that wall to hit them. The thing with the Cardinals is, I would actually not want to play them in the playoffs just because of the postseason experience. Like Yadier Molina has been there and done that. Jack Flaherty last year was very good in the playoffs, even though he was a young pitcher. I mean, again, this year's going to be different. It's very interesting with the Reds because I think they're going to try to change their rotation to try to win a few more games to just secure a playoff spot. So they might leapfrog the Cardinals there. The Cardinals Brewers, that's going to be, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win that series.
The Brewers are very streaky. So it depends on what Brewers team shows up. You look at the Brewers, right? They beat the Reds today 3-2. They rallied in the 7th. They were down 2-0. Rallied in the 7th to beat the Reds. So, they gained a game on them. They gained a game on St. Louis. Right now, St. Louis blew one last night to the Royals. They're up right now 3-0 in the top of the 5th to the Royals. So that's an interesting. That's going to be a fun one to watch. As a Cubs fan, I'm very interested in how that series plays out. I'm also very interested in how the Reds' final series plays out as well. While the Cubs are playing the White Sox, I mean, if the Cubs. Yeah. Lay an egg here and lose 2 out of the next 3 to Pittsburgh and then get swept by the White Sox, who need to win all those games to beat the Twins out for the division. Could the Reds possibly take the damn division? Because they're only 4.5 back. Mathematically, they're not out of it for the division just yet.
Well, 4.5 is just like
with 6 to go.
It's crazy how many games that really is in the context of like how short the season is.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. I don't think the Cubs will lose it, but I'm just saying it's not I'm a Cubs fan, man. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when the Cubs finally, in 2016, basically the same line applies to all teams that are snake bit. It was like, until I see them win the World Series, actually winning it, like, I'm not going to buy into the hype. I'm not going to buy into them winning it.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that 2016 season was one of the best. They had the Cubs versus Cleveland in an epic.
And I'll tell you right now, man, as a Cubs fan, you would think that I enjoyed every minute of that. I hated it, man. I was so stressed out during that World Series. Like, I would get home from work. The game would always start at 8 o'clock. I was living on the East Coast, so it was 8 o'clock Eastern when the games would start. And I would get home at about 4 or 5 o'clock, and I would sit on my couch and wait for the game and nervous and pace back and forth. And then when they were down 3-1, I was like, I can't believe they're doing this to me again. And then they won Game 5. I was like, great, now you're just prolonging my agony. And then they destroyed them in Game 6. I'm like, oh, man, maybe they've got something here. And then they were up so big in Game 7. I was like, oh, my God, they're really going to – and then they blew the lead. And I was like, yep, there it is. There it is.
Someone who's watched Aroldis Chapman for years, every time he doesn't throw a fastball in the playoffs, it's the pitch that gets hit out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And he bothers me because he smiles after it happens every time. I don't know what it is about him, but every time he gives up a game tying or game winning home run, he smiles about it. And I'm like, what are you smiling about, asshole?
So the story about the Astros the past year when Jose Altuve had walked off the series against him, is he apparently was smiling because they told him before the game. Not him. The catcher told him this is a rumor that if they know that you're going to throw a curveball on this pitch, don't throw a curveball. And he's like, and they're like, they know you're going to throw a curveball then, because people didn't know the Astros were stealing signs, but people knew the Astros could figure out if pitchers were tipping pitches. That's what happened to Tyler Glass now with the Rays.
Right.
The Rays Astros game 5. They were like, oh my God, we got him because we know he's tipping pitches. Which really now looking back, it's like, oh no, they just had they had
they were cheating
camera and stuff.
Yeah.
So with Aroldis Chapman, they told him like, don't throw a curveball on this pitch. I think it was like a 2-2 count or a 3-2 count. Like, don't throw a curveball or a breaking ball, and he did. And Altuve just smacked it out, and he's just like looking back, and he's just smiling like, wow, everyone was right. I can't believe that he knew which pitch I was throwing on that.
Yeah.
On that. That's the rumor of that story. But speaking of Cleveland, they just walked off against the White Sox
in the 10th. Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up. They walked off against the White Sox, and I mentioned the Phillies and how the Phillies looked uninterested in that doubleheader. They took a 7-6 lead in the extra innings in this game 2, and the Nationals walked them off in the bottom half of that inning and won the game 8-7 and swept the doubleheader today from the Phillies, who absolutely need every win they can get here coming down to this last week to try to get into the postseason. So
it's crazy. They're not going to get in again. And that's brutal for the Phillies because they've spent just so much on players that have just been completely not worth it.
Yeah.
I mean, besides for JT Realmuto, I don't think they signed. They just traded for him. And now they have to resign him because they're pressured to. But, Jake Arrieta was a huge signing. He has not worked out. He has really declined.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper is good, but me and someone else are in agreement. We call him the Kyrie Irving of baseball. It's like, and they've signed, and this year they signed Zach Wheeler. It's just they are spending to not even getting the playoffs. Like the Dodgers at least get into the playoffs with all their salary cap they burn.
Yep.
But not salary cap, payroll. But at least they're getting in. At least they were close. They made it to 2 World Series. Phillies aren't even getting into the playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
It's
with the team that they have, and then going and getting Joe Girardi. I mean, I don't understand why they're not winning. I don't understand how a Joe Girardi led team looks this uninterested, needing wins to get into the postseason. I don't get it. But it's going to be interesting to watch this last week. It's going to be interesting to see the teams that get in and the teams that don't get in. And I'm going to tell you right now, if the Miami Marlins get in and the Philadelphia Phillies do not get in, there's going to be some changes made in Philadelphia.
I wouldn't say they'd fire Girardi, but there's definitely going to be a lot of turnover.
Oh yeah, they're going to have to because the fans are going to go nuts. The media is going to go nuts over there. It is not going to be good if the Miami Marlins get in and the Phillies don't. So, all right. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then do you want to join me for one more segment? We'll do our way or no way segment. I think it's something that you would enjoy.
All right, I guess so. I mean, I should probably tell you why each team on the field isn't going to win the World Series, but that would take too long. Yeah, before break, I'll say my White Sox thing that I didn't like is, just real quick, is their fielding is very hard to move around players in that field. You have to keep players in left. Eloy Jimenez is a terrible left fielder, probably the worst in the league. They have to keep him in left field because they can't move him to DH because Edwin Encarnacion only plays DH.
Right.
And Jose Altuve only plays. So that's basically it. But definitely after the break, I'm sure I'll be down to do no way or way or whatever. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. I will put you on hold real quick, and then we will be back here in about 90 seconds. Stay with us.
Can't see the writing on the wall. All on social media, writing down your thoughts, packing on your walls. Shit, I'm guilty of it too. Few comments, someone's maybe coming glue. Had to put my phone down, pick up my Bible, spent time praying in the pews. Spent time praying for the youth, including my now racing too. Boys need to understand what it takes to be a man, stand up for the truth. When you stand on the truth, don't stand out, we say it too. No one's listening when you dissing, they just stand and wait to shoot. So I won't take a knee. I'd rather take two. That's what it takes to see breakthrough. Okay, cool. No, I don't hate you, but understand why I'm taking two. Knees is one for Jesus, and the other is to make a truce.
All right, guys, so we are back. We are about to play our favorite game, which is Way or No Way. You guys know how this one works. I will give a set of statements, and then myself and Mike Fink, who is still on the phone with us, will say either way or no way, and then we'll give our reasons why we say way or no way. So you got that, Mike?
All right. Sure, let's do it.
All right, so most of these are football related, so be ready for that. So the first one that I have here is there were a lot of injuries in the NFL this week, and I think two of them were significant for two teams. I think most of them were significant, but especially these two. So I have way or no way, Christian McCaffrey is a bigger loss for the Panthers than Saquon Barkley is for the Giants.
I don't know. I think I'll go Christian McCaffrey because Christian McCaffrey added at least one or two wins by being in the Panthers offense, whereas Saquon Barkley, the Giants, I had the Giants winning like 3 or 4 games. I was very not sold on the Giants this year.
Yep.
And to make matters worse, Saquon Barkley out. I don't know though Saquon Barkley is going to add any wins. Christian McCaffrey, they built the offense around him because Teddy Bridgewater is a check down quarterback. They don't have any. They built the offense where Christian McCaffrey is the main weapon, and now he's gone. So I would say Christian McCaffrey, but is he out for the season?
No, so Christian McCaffrey is out for 4 to 6 weeks. Saquon Barkley is done for the season. I say way as well for kind of the same reasons you do. I was not very big on the New York Giants. I did not think that they were going to necessarily perform very well versus the NFC East and their schedule that they had there. But I'm just not a big proponent of them. The Carolina Panthers, they had a chance to be sneaky good. I like Teddy Bridgewater. I like the team, the offense that they built around Christian McCaffrey, like you said, and losing him for 4 to 6 weeks, to me, it ends their season.
I don't know if the Panthers are ready this year. I think I had them as one of my potential sleeper teams, but it's definitely like the Giants almost was like they were going nowhere anyway, so it didn't really matter for that the Giants lost Saquon. It's like, okay, they're going to be in last place basically anyway. With McCaffrey now, it's like, oh yeah, they're actually going to finish last in their division, and one has to wonder if they end up the 1 or 2 pick, are they going to draft a quarterback?
Yeah. No, I agree. So yeah, I guess we're both way on that question. So the next one is another football question, and it's simply this: way or no way, the Rams are back.
No, I'm going no way. Here, this is interesting with the Rams. Last season, people forget last season that they started out 3-0 and finished 9-7.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are a team that can take advantage of a bad schedule or a good matchup, which they did twice in their first 2 games. The Cowboys are a good team, but they were just starting a new center for the first time. Travis Frederick retired, so they had to replace him. First game, they were replacing a new center, and they had to replace Lyle Collins, who went on IR at, I think, left guard. And people are like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like, whatever, 2 offensive linemen, which first of all is. And second, they were playing Aaron Donald week 1, who is the biggest game wrecker in the NFL on defense. Like, that was a bad match. And then the Eagles' interior O-line was also bad. So the Rams took advantage of 2 games that had great matchups, especially when you have Aaron Donald in the middle. I'm not sold on the Rams being back. They're a borderline playoff team now, but Jared Goff is not a very good quarterback, and the offense is balanced, but you have to think it's gonna catch up. Just like last year, we saw the Rams were in the repeat mode for the first 3 games because they steamrolled actually their first 3 opponents, I believe. But
right.
At the end of the day, they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I think.
So I'm going no way here as well. I don't think that the Rams are for real. I definitely think that they are the worst of the 2-0 teams, even a little bit worse than my Bears, who I don't believe that they should be 2-0 either. But the Rams to me are that team, like you said, last year they started out 3-0, they finished 9-7, and they are definitely that team that could do the same thing again this year. Jared Goff is not a stellar quarterback. He's not the guy who is ever going to go out there and give you a consistently, 12-4 seasons like you see out in Seattle or with Tom Brady or with Drew Brees, or any of the really good quarterbacks like an Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to see that out of Jared Goff, and I have no faith that they are going to hang in there in the NFC West. So that's a no way for me too.
It's also worse because the Seahawks look ready to play in the Super Bowl and potentially win it right now.
Yeah.
So when you're in a division like that, it doesn't really help you. It help your cause.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. So the next one here is an interesting one to me. And I thought about this over the weekend as we were sitting there. I was watching Philly losing big. I was watching Dallas losing big, even though ultimately they came back. And that entire NFC East was about to be 0-2 with the exception of the Washington not Redskins anymore. We're about to be the only team in that division with a win. So here's the next one. The Washington not Redskins anymore will win the NFC East.
This is interesting because if they would have played a close game against the Cardinals, I would have said very much way. The defense is going to win a few games for them, especially when they can rotate D linemen the way they do. That their defense is going to keep them in games. Their offense cannot move the ball down the field. I am going to say they're going to give the Cowboys a run for their money. If they beat the Browns this week, keep an eye out for Washington. That's a team that could potentially win the division. Also, based on the schedule and based on a D line that's going to give teams problems. But as of now, the Cowboys are almost like too big to fail. So I would say no way. It doesn't seem like it doesn't. It's hard to not say that the Cowboys, with all the cap room that they're putting into the season and all the star players, like that they don't win the division at the end of the day.
Yeah. So I'm going no way on this one also, but I don't think that they're as far out of it as people would think. When they talk about the Washington, not Redskins anymore, they don't really talk about how good they could be or how good they are or can they win the division or this or that. They talk about how big of a joke they are because of Daniel Snyder and all the things that are going on there, and there's still an investigation going on. They're not going to win. They're not ready. Their quarterback is horrible, blah, 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 blah. But this is going to be a division that gets won by an 8-8 team. And the Washington Redskins are the Washington not Redskins anymore, are absolutely capable of being that 8-8 team that wins this division. I was way wrong about the Philadelphia Eagles, who I picked at the beginning of the season to win this division. And to me, the Cowboys are what we saw on last Sunday. They're a team that is going to get down big, and unless they're playing the Atlanta Falcons every week, they're not going to be able to come back like that every week. They are not a very good football team. They're a very talented team on paper, but they're not a very good football team. So this is a no way for me. I do think the Cowboys find a way to sneak this one out and piss everybody off because they win a division. But that's a team that's carried by Zeke and not by Dak. So I could definitely see the Washington Redskins. It would not surprise me if they're that team at 8-8 to win this division.
I think the difference between these two teams that we see is the Cowboys have the pieces that you need to make the playoffs. They have a quarterback. They have the pieces that they're developing are only going to make them better, whereas their secondary is a young, rebuilding secondary. Yeah. That can only get them better, where it looked awful in week one, and it's looked awful against the Falcons. Their O-line, it's not good now. It's going to get it, but it can get better, and it can build it. Washington, that football team, they do not have an offense right now, and it's like they don't have the pieces that it's like, all right, if we develop that, we're really into something. Like Dwayne Haskins is not making good throws. He's also not using his mobility to his advantage. That if the defense is good, but really, like, I mean, you don't think that the defense single-handedly could win them 9 games. That's the hard part.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree there. So we're going to stay in the NFC East with the next one here. And this one is another interesting one to me. Carson Wentz is more the problem in Philly than he is the answer in Philly.
I would disagree. I'd say no way, just because of him and Doug Peterson because of last year that team had nothing, and they were able to basically bring them into the playoffs. I will say that this just looks like the worst Eagles team that we have seen in the Doug Peterson era. It's the first team that he's had that's gone 0-2. It's problematic when, like, they didn't have a draft class that's just bringing that immediate impact, which I think some of us thought it would. They drafted Jalen Hurts. It's a good pick in general, and it's a good pick considering that Carson Wentz gets injured a lot. But I would think that they should start considering putting it in the offense in some packages, because their offense, that team just not looked good. And I'm going to say no way that Carson Wentz is not he's not the problem. It's the roster really around him.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one. This is going to be the first one we disagree on. I'm going to say way. I'm watching Carson Wentz play, and I'm watching him do a lot of things that Carson Wentz doesn't normally do. Carson Wentz is not a guy who turns the ball over a lot. So far this year, he is. I watched him on a play last week. It was 1st and 10 in the red zone, and they run a screenplay. Well, he checks down and goes to his fourth option on that play and forces a ball that gets picked off in between two defenders. He's making plays right now that I've never seen Carson Wentz do, and I think that is from a lack of talent around him. And so I think that he is going to continue to try to do more than what he is capable of doing, and he's going to continue to be the problem for them because he's not being the game manager that they need under center. Philadelphia is not a team that is going to blow you out. They are a team that needs to beat you 17-13 every week in clock management. They cannot be turning the ball over. And right now, Carson Wentz is not showing the capability to not turn the ball over because he is pressing. So I absolutely think that he's the problem in Philly.
Well, I think you mentioned it for why it shouldn't be his fault that he doesn't have a good supporting cast. And I think that this basically, instead of where in 2017 where it was like, no, you have a good team around you, you don't need to do much because we have the supporting cast to win games for you. Now there's more of this urgency to like, you have to do more. You have to overcompensate for the lack of talent around you. And more importantly, the O-line has been a mess. That Carson Wentz is a guy who's not a mobile quarterback who needs an O-line to give him time. And when he was sacked like 7 times against Washington.
8 times.
You can't put that. I don't think you can put that on him. Whereas for years they've been able to protect Carson Wentz, and now finally they can't. So,
but
almost any quarterback would struggle with that.
With your, franchise quarterback, you want a franchise quarterback that is able to get you through your tough times, even if you don't have the greatest supporting cast around them, whether it's injuries or just, losing guys for a year or whatever the case is. I mean, you do have Miles Sanders, who's a capable running back. And you've got some capable wide receivers, even though you lost Nelson Aguilar, and it probably hurt them a lot last night watching him catch balls in Las Vegas. But I just, Tom Brady did it for years without a good supporting cast. And, I want to see more from Carson Wentz if he's going to be the guy that leads Philadelphia back to the playoffs. So, all right. So with that being said, we are running out of time here. Thank you, Mike, for joining me. I appreciate it. Had a lot of good talk. We're going to have you on again, I'm sure. Talk more baseball, especially once the playoffs start. We'll have you on again to talk more football, I'm sure. So thank you again for calling into the show on short notice. I very much appreciate it, sir.
My pleasure. I mean, maybe I'll start a podcast at the rate I'm coming on to all these shows. I'm only missing one show that I haven't called on at the Big Four. So who knows? With the all ACC, we got rebrands and stuff.
Yeah, man, absolutely. The All Access Sports Network. We've got a lot of good things happening. A lot more good shows. We're going to be a coast-to-coast network. We got a couple shows from the West Coast that are looking to join the network. So we're very excited about the things that are happening there. Very excited for you guys who are doing the blogging as well. You've got a lot of good stuff that's been coming out lately. I've been reading a lot of the blogs. So keep up the good work, man.
Feel free to give criticism to anything I write because I'm looking to make it better. And anything I write, like, you can tell me not only if you disagree with the content, but like how to make it better as a substance. So
yeah, absolutely.
Always let me know about that.
Yeah, will do, man. Will do. Again, thank you again for joining the show, bud. Have a good night.
Matt.
All right, so that was Mike Fink he's a blogger for the RTF Sports Network, soon to be the All Access Sports Network. Very good writer. He's got a lot of good stuff that's come out. He's written some NFL stuff. He's written some MLB stuff. So he's got a lot of good stuff coming out, and so you guys should check him out for sure. It's a very good read. Keep you entertained for a little bit. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. I am about out of time. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much being on my own tonight. Hopefully it was something that you enjoyed listening to. Give me some feedback. I always enjoy it. And I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you guys for joining the show.